Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a review, and it's actually a review of a fragrance that I have been threatening to review on the channel for many, what feels like years. Well, it has been years because it's almost been a couple years since I've started the channel now, which is absolutely crazy to think about. And so today we're going to talk about a fragrance from the house of Arabian Oud, and this is called Kashmir. Now, a couple things before we really get into this. Kashmir is named after this geographical part of India. It's actually the northern most geographical area of the Indian subcontinent. And it's between the Great Himalaya Mountains, between Pakistan and India, if my geography is correct. And Kashmir, the name in English, is actually derived from a Sanskrit name called Kashmira, and Kashmira is supposed to be this popularly said amongst the locals as Kashmira instead of Kashmira, so it turned into Kashmir. And basically, Kashmira is referring to land that is desiccated from water. Okay, so that's the etymology of the name, if you will. Now, this fragrance is obviously a Arabian Oud perfume, and of all of the Arabian Oud fragrances that I've smelled, I've had this decant for the longest. I've had this decant for, I believe, 4+ years. And I've probably worn it 4 or 5 times in those 4+ years that I've had it. And you can see I've gone through maybe like 4 of the 10 mil in this decant. So I've given it a fair amount of wears, okay? But my understanding of the fragrance greatly increased as I got to know Russian Adam and as I got to know real oud, okay? So the first thing, before we really start getting into the scent, is that Kashmir, to me, this is a fragrance that is a clean style oud, okay? So that's the very first thing you have to understand, is that this is not an oud, even though it lists oud in the notes, this is not an oud that has any of the fermented Indian, fecal, animalic, whatever you want to call it, type smell. It's a much cleaner take on oud. And what's interesting about this particular release is the, if you go to the Arabian Oud website and actually type in Kashmir, which I'm going to do right now, I should have had it up already, Arabian Oud Kashmir, what it actually takes you to is a fragrance called Kashmir Musk. Now, Kashmir Musk comes in a different colored juice. The note listing is different, so this is actually a flanker of the original Kashmir. So Kashmir Musk is a flanker that I think came out a couple years ago. And that's the only one that you can actually now buy on the Arabian Oud website. I don't see Kashmir, the original Kashmir. The original was not called Kashmir Musk. The note listing was different as well. Kashmir Musk has things like pink pepper. It has things like lily of the valley. None of those notes are in here. It has things like ylang ylang. None of those notes are in the original Kashmir. So if you go to Parfumo, it'll give you the note listing as Japanese yuzu, blackcurrant, plum, jasmine, oud, rose, more oud in the base, vanilla, and white musk, okay? And so this particular, the original Kashmir, which I think came out somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. I'm not 100% sure. But I no longer see the OG on the Arabian Oud website. So even though Parfumo says that this is still in production, my guess is that this is discontinued. And I've had a couple people tell me that they think Kashmir has been discontinued as well, but I'm not 100% sure. But not seeing it on the website definitely makes me feel that it's either discontinued or, because I have to look at the Arabian Oud USA website. So maybe it's just discontinued off the USA website, but I don't see it anymore. So the first thing to discuss here is the brand and the way that they do their fragrances. So I've reviewed 3 from the brand now. We did Diwan Al Shark, we did Royal Oud, and we did Blue Oud. Okay, so those 3 are under the Arabian Oud playlist. If you want to go back and sort of get my thoughts on those, you can. And I've reviewed them in the last 4 or 5 months or so. So this is a house that I was basically completely ignorant about. And I have a review of Rasala coming, which is kind of like their mass appealing, I would say, sort of their kind of sweet, compliment getting fragrance. I got it for very cheap off of a friend. Actually, I think you throw it in as like a freebie. It's not my kind of perfume, but I will review it for you guys. It seems to get a lot of interest. And honestly, I don't know if this is a brand that even deserves to have this many reviews on my channel. I don't know if it deserves to sort of be highlighted like this, because nothing that they put out really truly impressed me. Nothing grabbed my attention. You know what I mean? I think that the brand is vastly overpriced for what you get. And I think a lot of their fragrances just left me very underwhelming. I would say Blue Oud is my favorite, then Royal Oud, and then probably Kashmir and Diwan Al Shark kind of at the bottom as far as I'm concerned. But so for me, you know, this is sort of Arabian Oud's take on a clean oud. Now, if you go back through my video archives, you will find some reviews on some clean oud type perfume. So the one that really pops to my mind, and I actually talked about this. I wore this as my scent of the day when I did my very first Russian Adam interview on the channel. You can go to Arise Ladori playlist, or there's actually a playlist just for interviews, or if you just look up the Russian Adam interview, you'll find it on YouTube. But the very first interview I did with him, I wore this as my scent of the day because it was right around the time that Arise Ladori was releasing Aquilaria Blossom. And Aquilaria Blossom was a tandem scent. It was created in tandem with his good friend Taha, who owns Agar Aura. And Taha likes this sort of clean oud scent that stays in the background, very minimalistic type of oud. And that's actually what Kashmir's oud smells like, okay? So it starts off smelling very fruity and very fresh, all right? Sort of like a woody, floral, fruity, fresh fragrance is kind of the way that I would describe the way that it breaks down. With that clean oud backbone, okay, that skeleton, but it really remains hidden. Just like you can't look and see your skeleton, well, you shouldn't be able to. You can, it is close to Halloween. Halloween just passed. But, you know, it really is one of those highlighting type ouds. It goes around and shines the flashlight on other notes, if you will. That's the way I think about the oud in this composition. I've been on a little bit of an oud kick lately, and recently I did a review of a Mancera. It's actually my very first Mancera review. A lot of people like it because I kind of bashed it a little bit, or maybe a lot of bit, but you can go check out my Mancera review. And I said it was called, that particular one I did was Intensitive Oud Gold. The name is just like, migraine inducing. Intensitive Oud Gold. Don't worry, there's also a silver and a black version because Mancera has to have like 120 perfumes. But I said the musk in that fragrance, and also it reminded me a bit of the musk in Bond Number 9 Signature, which is a musk rose oud from 2009. But the reason I bring this up, and the reason I bring up the Mancera, is this very similar designery, sort of white, powdery musk note that's used. And I think that whenever you smell fragrances that are made in similar years, you know, you're really smelling like a snapshot in time. You're smelling what the people creating it think would smell, or they're competing against, you know, their fragrances, the competition. And they kind of know, I think they all watch each other. They all know what the competition's putting out, what's trending, what's popular, that kind of thing. This very white musk heavy take on an oud, okay, feels in the same category, if you will. They don't all smell the same, but they're in a very similar category, okay? Now, the Mancera clashes much more, of course, because Manceras feel like the person creating them does not know how to blend, to me. They're very clashy, which some people like. They like the fact that they're very harsh. You know, it's almost like paint stripping harsh sometimes, which I don't mind. Sometimes I don't mind that type of scent, but sometimes I do. And I really think that, you know, in that style, this is much better blended than, of course, the Mancera. This may even be a little bit better blended than the Bond Number 9 to me, although the musk in here smells a little unique. I'll review this one of these days as well. One of these days I'll review this Bond Number 9 Signature from 2009. And so I'm thinking this is a similar time frame. The Mancera was 2008, this is 2009, the Bond Number 9, and this is probably similar release date. I couldn't find the actual release date. It says it's unknown in Parfumo. And when you first spray this fragrance, what you're going to get, And I wore this as my scent of the day to work. You can see I've got my work clothes on still. And so it's cold here in Texas. You know, it hit freezing last night. Finally, this is like the weather I wait for. And really, I think this is a better fragrance to review in the heat, but I'm indoors almost all day. The only time I'm really outside is if I decide to go outside, or like if I'm between walking to the car and to the building, right? And so since I'm in a climate controlled office, it really doesn't matter. But if I was working outside, I would not have worn this today because it was in the 40s here in Texas, 40s, 50s. And you know, it's going to drop back down into the 30s again. And so to me, this is a fragrance that I think shines in the heat, okay? Because what you end up getting in the top is you get this very brilliant, citrusy yuzu note. And I really like that Arabian Oud used yuzu. I think yuzu is an underrated note. You know, it's a very expensive citrus to use is the reason it's so underrated, because yuzu, actually the trees take a decade before they start producing fruit. You can't just plant a yuzu tree and bam, you've got yuzus. It's a time intensive process. And I don't think the yield that they give is very much either. Less than a grapefruit. Although it has grapefruit elements, the citrusy yuzu in here, to me, it smells like it adds this sort of tart, very bitter, rindy, slightly rindy combo that really smooths everything out. You know, the yuzu is a very smooth citrus. It doesn't have the metallic side that some bergamot can have, and it adds this very cool, it's very smooth and cool, like the other side of the pillow. You know, you flip it over and you get that coolness from the other side of the pillow. I mean, it has some of that very smooth, relaxing type feeling. And I think it's a very appealing opening, because what you get in the beginning is the Japanese yuzu with fruits instantly. So you're hit with blackcurrant and you're hit with plum. Okay, so those two fruits sort of blend with this very slightly green, tangy, but extremely smooth yuzu right from the get-go. A brilliant execution of yuzu. And that's why I think that this smells better in the heat. So even though I wore it on a cold day, I wore it because I wanted to do the review for you guys and knock this out and, you know, be done with it. My initial thought on reviewing these type of, you know, samples, which instead of full bottles first, is that I'll always have the full bottle. I can always go back to the full bottle. You know, this type of thing, who knows, evaporation happens, or it's just sometimes with these decants, you just never know. Since I don't own a bottle, and I probably will never own a bottle, my thought process was, let's knock out these reviews first. Well, my whole thought process of always having the bottle is being challenged in this divorce. So we'll see how that ends up working out if I do always have the bottles. You know, because I love this hobby so much. They're, of course, going to go after where it hurts, right? But we'll see. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. But that thinking that I had originally when I was like, let me focus on these, may not actually work in my favor, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But this very appealing sort of yuzu sets this apart a little bit from some of the other fragrances that you've probably smelled. And the oud in here, the way that I described, the way that I've kind of come to the realization of how the oud in here works is the oud in here almost works like an accent. Okay, so like imagine you put an accent over a letter and it kind of changes the way that it's supposed to be pronounced in certain languages, right? The oud in here accents the other notes. It really, you know, shines a flashlight on them. Last night while trick-or-treating with my daughter, I brought the flashlight, and you know, sometimes when you shine the flashlight on the skeleton or the pumpkin or something, she's 4 years old, and so it just illuminates it and lights it up, and she sees it differently, right? That's the way that the oud in here works. It kind of highlights the blackcurrant, the plum, the Japanese yuzu in the top, and then the florals in the heart, because there's jasmine and rose in the heart of the fragrance. And I think that this is I've got like a 10-hour dry down here, and you can smell the fragrance even 10 hours in. It does last a long time on your skin, which really makes me think that there are some synthetics being pushed out, you know, to keep you smelling this, let's say, for so long, because there's probably some naturals as well, but I think there is a heavy use of synthetics in Arabian oud perfumes, in my opinion. But I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who really, really likes perfume. I'm a perfume addict. So very appealing. And like I said, the oud in here works like an accent. But what's interesting about the way that the oud in here works is I bet you if you just sprayed this on people and you said, tell me what's in here, you would get some sort of citruses in the top. Some people would pick out the fruitiness, okay? Some people would pick out the floral side, you know, and I think a lot of people would probably pick out that white musk. The white musk really jumps off. The white musk is a much bigger part of the composition than they make it seem, sticking it just in the base notes. It really feels like a musk-heavy composition of an oud creation, let's say, of a oud fragrance creation. But I bet 85 to 90% of people would never guess there was oud in here. Maybe more. Maybe 95 or 99% of people would not guess there's oud in here because it's so soft. I mean, I mentioned pillows earlier. You know, it really has this downy, soft pillow feel to it. And the way the musk is executed is a big part of it, I would say. But it's just this very soft, clean take on an oud, you know. It really has this white, I mean, almost like my collar today, right? This very white, just clean, white collar, shirt clean. Great for the office. I would say it's a great office fragrance. Like if you wanted to wear an oud fragrance to the office and you're not going to wear the night or something like that, you don't want to wear an animalic oud, you want to wear sort of a cleaner oud, this is an easy reach for that type of occasion, okay? And so to me, what ends up happening with this composition is that the musk begins instantly blending with the blackcurrant and the plum. And to my nose, like I said, the white musk is much heavier than that very shy oud note. So you could almost say that this is more of a musk-heavy creation of this woody floral musk. Woody floral musk with an oud tilt may be a better way to describe it, okay? But very shy oud note. Keep that in mind. Very clean, very shy, all right? It really stays in the background and just shines the flashlight. It accentuates the other notes. And the musk seems to kind of shoot off of the starting block like a rocket, right? And it just blends with these other notes instantly. And to my nose, I picked that musk up very early on. It's not something that just is like a musky dry down. No, the musk is a much bigger player here. And, you know, it's kind of like one of those, you like rooting for the underdog, right? Or the long shot. It really feels like you would not expect this to be a musk-heavy fragrance, but it is. It's a white musk, which is a synthetic musk, of course, but I've learned that I don't necessarily always dislike some of those white musk notes. Sometimes synthetic musks are done okay. Synthetic deer musk is very beautiful to my nose. And it just adds this sort of slightly sweet, fruity, woody, floral, very likable creation, I would say. I think most people would just spray this and like it, okay? It's a very likable creation. So the fragrance sort of does that sweet and sour thing is what they're trying to do, with which I touched on, I think, in the Mancera review, these Western-style ouds. I'm not going to say there's no real oud in here because I don't know. There very well could be real oud in here, but it doesn't smell like the artisanal ouds. And it's a little bit of a curse because whenever I do these reviews, I always have to say that. It's like knowing they're out there. You know, if I were doing these reviews and I had never smelled a Riege and Bortnikov and Ensars and Rising Phoenix and these type of brands, you know, you know, it's like an ostrich with your head in the sand, right? You don't know what you don't know, right? Ignorance can be bliss. But now that I know about them, I can never take that back. I can never sniff these without thinking about real oud because the brand is putting out an oud fragrance, right? So is there real oud in here? I have no clue. Does it smell like there's real oud in here? No, not at all. It smells like a Western style oud to me, okay? But that Western style oud, especially around 10 to 15 years ago, I noticed they tried to do what I would refer to as like the sour oud. So it kind of tries to create this sour offset with the sweet vanilla, because there is some sweet vanilla in the base. So the oud tries to just kind of offset some of that sweet vanilla, so it's not too sweet. And it feels like that's what they're trying to do with this clean oud. Slightly sour, but very, very generic smelling to my nose. The vanilla sweetness in the base, I've smelled, drink of the day is, again, ginger beer. I've been on a ginger beer kick. This is alcohol free, so there's no alcohol in ginger beer, but they are expiring this month, so they must be used. but they make me burp, so excuse me. So I've smelled some of these other Arabian ouds like I talked about, and I've done videos on them. You can go check out my thoughts on them. And there's just something in the base of all of them, every single one, even the one that, even their very expensive line, right? Because they have a fragrance called Royal Oud, which sells for $1,500 if you want the one with the pure fragrance oil. If you just want the bottle without the pure fragrance oil, I think it's like $750 or something like that. It's a lot of money that they're asking for that fragrance. Even in the extremely high-end, Arabian oud perfumes, there is something very designer in the base to my nose, all of them. And if you wait into the dry down, you'll get that designer-like element here, and you definitely get it with Kashmir. So, like I said, I would probably rank Arabian Oud's creations overall, not just Kashmir, but all of them, much closer to the Mancera or the Bond Number 9 type, creations. The designer / niche side of things, much more than I would with the Aris Ladores or Bortnikovs, or there's actually a new artisanal brand I'm going to try and do a video on for the very first time. I talked about this house during a live sniffing session within the last 6 months or so. Someone sent me some ouds that I did some blind sniffs on a live stream, and this house came up and I was thoroughly impressed, okay? And I've been wanting to get my hands on more juice so I could do an actual review for you guys, and I have a couple of these, thanks to a very good friend of the channel. I believe Hari sent me these, but I'm not 100% sure. But if it was you, thank you, Hari. And the house is called Katana. And so Katana, I would put much more into the artisanal side of things. They're much more like the Arisias and Bortnikovs and stuff like that. But for me, Arabian Oud is much more along the lines of a Bond Number 9 or a Mancera or something like that. So not necessarily a put down, but in style, when you smell it, it's going to fall more in line with those houses, okay? The way that they're executed. And so, even though they're priced, Arabian Oud is priced much higher. I think this one, Kashmir, was actually originally in line with Mancera pricing. I want to say 100 mils of this was $190 or like $200. And I think Manceras are around $180 retail. Now you can find them discounted. I don't think you can find Arabian Oud Kashmir discounted. I don't know, but especially with it, I think it's discontinued, like I said. So if you have some experience with real ouds, there are some ouds that have some fruitiness to them. I think Cambodian ouds will sometimes be fruity. And so if you've smelled some of those Ensar fragrances, like for example, I did a review recently on an Ensar fragrance called Oud Yusuf. And Oud Yusuf brought in a ton of different fruity notes, honeydew melons and all of these type of fruity notes, all plums and all kind of fruits. And aldehydes and stuff like that. And so if you've smelled some of those fruity ouds that Ensar does, or I did a review from Centauri perfumes that Peter from Fragrance View, the channel Fragrance View, did. And there was a Centauri fragrance that actually uses the fruity type of oud that Ensar distilled. Thai oud and Cambodian oud, I think, can both be sort of in that slightly fruity floral aspect, depending on how they're distilled, and maybe Papau oud and stuff like that, Borneo oud, stuff like that, fruity type of ouds, okay? And so if you smelled Chambeau by Centauri, or if you smelled sort of the fruitier type of ouds that are done, this fragrance could be seen as a designer version of that. It'll get you in the ballpark, okay? You're not smelling fecal Indian ouds. I can't stress that enough. So, final assessment for me. If you know my taste, you're going to know instantly from the words I'm telling you that, with me having the same illness as my brother Russian Adam, and we like more of the real castoreum, more oud, more castoreum, more civet, more real musks, more ambergris, right? Those type of notes in there, more ambers and stuff like that. This doesn't go in that direction. It doesn't go in the heavy animalic. Even with the florals, I've learned I love indolic florals and stuff like that, dirty florals. And so think of someone who's creating like a minimalistic style creation of an oud perfume, right? Think of someone like if Jean-Claude Elena was out there doing these oud perfumes. Think of a very minimalistic, clean creation of an oud. It doesn't have so if you've smelled Aquilaria Blossom by Arise Ladore, the whole point of that perfume was that it was supposed to be an imagining of what a blossom on the Aquilaria tree would smell like, okay? And so I think they do maybe have little blossoms, but I don't think they smell. And I love the idea. It's a brilliant artistic exercise by Taha and Russian Atom of Arise Ladore. And in Aquilaria Blossom, you get much more real ambergris smell. The florals are toned down in Aquilaria Blossom. The florals in Kashmir are toned up. So you get more jasmine and more rose and stuff like that from Kashmir. And also in Aquilaria Blossom, you do get this real oud type smell, but it's the cleaner oud that Taha prefers. So if you're interested in kind of going into the oud rabbit hole, I have some playlists on my channel. You can check out things like Bortnikov. You can check out the playlist for Arise Ladore and Ensar. But the other one to check out that most people don't talk about is a brand called Agar Aura. And Agar Aura, like agar wood, A-G-A-R, Agar Aura, his brand focuses on the cleaner ouds, I've noticed, most of the time. Not all of them. Some of them are not like that, but I know that Taha prefers, when he distills his oud, to have a cleaner smell. He doesn't prefer that fermented, animalic, barnyardy, wood chippy, fertilizer chip feel. He prefers it to be much cleaner, okay? So if you like that style, I would say Kashmir might be one to try. It's like a designer side. It's like a designer smelling version of that type of perfume. And so for me, just with where I'm at in my, journey, I'm happy to be able to do this type of video for you guys. I enjoyed wearing it. I'll finish the rest of my decant one of these days, but would I go spend $200 on a bottle of this? No, absolutely not. Heck no. And so for me, this would be a pass just for where I'm at. Glad to get to smell it. Glad to get to do the review for you guys. But for me, the original Kashmir is a pass. And most things I've smelled from the House of Arabian Oud, honestly, are a pass. I just don't think the house is for me. Very, very similar to what I said about Mancera. I just don't think the house is for me. Some Arabian Oud fans may be highly offended that I'm comparing it to Mancera. I'm just saying price-wise and what I've smelled and that kind of thing. It's just not for me. They also put out a lot of perfumes. Arabian Oud also feels like hundreds of fragrances. So maybe the comparison to Mancera is not as off-kilter as it may initially seem. But yes, I mean, they've got like 13 pages of fragrances on Parfumo. And each page has 20 bottles on it. So they have 13 pages on here. So now, not all of them may still be in existence, of course. There's probably some that have been discontinued and stuff like that. But it's a brand that just never resonated with me. If I just close my eyes, use my schnoz, and stop, don't read anything, and just go with what I'm smelling, I'm not impressed. Not impressed at all. But that's why I want to make these videos. You can enjoy something and not be impressed enough to go buy a full bottle. And that's kind of the spot that I'm in. And I don't think, if it wasn't for Russian Atom and Taha creating stuff like Aquilaria Blossom and me understanding this cleaner oud aspect, I don't think I would have been able to do a review this in depth. It took years of oud exploration to get to the point where I'm at now, where I can talk the way I'm talking about Kashmir. I think this would be a little bit of an enigma. For the folks that get up here and say, oh, you can smell the most amazing Kashmir oud. That's what the brand is basically telling you, that this is special oud from Kashmir. And who knows, maybe there is a drop or two of real oud from the Kashmir region in India. I don't know. But I'm just telling you from my experience, it has that westernized, oud smell. So keep that in mind. I wouldn't pay big money for this. Maybe if you can find a bottle on the cheap and you like that style. But then again, you know, Ocularia Blossom was not a bestseller for Aries Ladore. And so if you can find bottles floating around or you get one for a discounted price, I would much rather have Ocularia Blossom if I were going for this scent style, if you will. In my opinion, the cleaner oud, I'd much rather have Ocularia Blossom or even some of those Agar Aura fragrances I've smelled. You can go check out my videos on that brand. That feels like, you know, a brand that if you like cleaner ouds, Agar Aura or Ocularia Blossom would be the way to go, in my personal opinion. So, appreciate everyone watching. We're at the 30-minute mark. That's enough ranting and rambling for me on Kashmir. If you have experience with Kashmir, let me know. If you have experience with the flanker, Kashmir Musk as well, let me know. And if you have experience with the House of Arabian Oud, let me know what you think of what I'm saying of the house, if you agree or disagree. Again, I'm not sponsored. One of the reasons why I started this channel is so I could get up here and say whatever the hell I want. And I plan on keeping it that way. I told you there was a brand that offered me an affiliate link, and I shot them down because, you know, how can you be honest and say good, bad, indifferent things about a fragrance and then put an affiliate link up there? It just doesn't work, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at with this. So hope this review helps someone. I hope some of you get to try Kashmir for the first time. Love to see your face in the comments. Cheers, guys. As of this moment, the Texas Rangers have not yet won the World Series, but if they win tonight, they win it all. So if you're watching it in the future, fingers crossed for the Rangers. So cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.